This page is the front cover of the Nintendo magazine, issue 56 from May 97. Right in your faces, International Superstar Soccer 64, promising it's the first and best for N64, and boldly proclaiming itself as Acclaim's N64 Wipeout beta. Bit cheeky comparing a football game to Wipeout, isn't it? But hey, marketing, eh? It's got the usual exclusive first review slapped on it too, naturally. Alongside ISS 64, they are teasing a few other N64 titles like Mission Impossible, Duke Nukem 64, Bomberman 64, Top Gear Rally, and Star Fox 64. Standard N64 fare for the time. Oh, and look, they're even throwing in a free Turok 32-page monster tips book inside. Always good to get a bit of help with blasting dinosaurs. Yeah, pretty typical magazine cover for the time, hyping up the latest games, must-have tips, and the usual magazine fluff. This page is a full-page advert, and it's for Pilotwings 64. Right at the top it's got this cheeky line, "The thermals can keep you UP all night," in big orange letters, bit suggestive for a Nintendo game, eh? Below that there's a picture of hang gliders, and a small plane flying about in a blue sky. It's all promoting the game, saying you can have that recurring dream where you can fly. It mentions the full motion 360 degrees control, how you can fly different aircraft in 3D, and even mentions locations like Mount Rushmore. They're really pushing the 64-bit power of the N64, and saying it will definitely keep you up at night. Pilotwings 64, yeah, that was one of the early N64 games, wasn't it? Showing off what the console could do with 3D flying games. Remember the rings of targets? Yeah, good times. Down at the bottom it's got the Pilotwings 64 logo, the Nintendo 64 logo, and that "Get Into It" slogan, and it's even got the console and game prices listed too. Just a typical advert pushing one of the N64's launch window titles, really. This is a content summary for a May 1997 issue of a gaming magazine, focusing on Nintendo consoles. The issue kicks off with a UK review of International Superstar Soccer 64, N64. The news section previews upcoming N64 titles like Star Fox 64, Duke Nukem 64, and Gomon 5, alongside SNES and Game Boy games. The reviews section covers ISS 64 and FIFA 64, N64, Bomberman 5, SNES, and a range of Game Boy titles. Other features include an exclusive first look at the Mission Impossible game, an Acclaim N64 lineup spotlighting Extreme G and Dead or Alive, and a look at Japanese N64 titles, like Powerful Pro Baseball 64. There's a free Turok tip book giveaway, and a chance to win colored controllers. Additional sections include behind-the-scenes content on Mission Impossible, a Mario history feature, tips for various games, and regular features like a mailbag and previews for next month's issue. This page is all about Star Fox 64. Big news back then, right on the Nintendo 64. It's titled, "Star Fox Blasts On," in this stunning 64. A bit dramatic, even for the time. It's an N64 update, confirming the Japanese release date as April 27th. They're really hyping it up, saying everyone is excited, and Nintendo needs to get it perfect. Typical magazine talk, but, you know, we were all buzzing for this game. They've got sections describing 3 levels: Corneria, Titania, and Sector X. Corneria is the home planet level, under attack by Andross, and you're fighting a giant mechanoid boss. Sounds like classic Star Fox. Titania is about rescuing Slippy, who's crash-landed, and apparently there are local wildlife threats as well as Andross's forces. They mention a new tank vehicle called the Landmaster. Brilliant, isn't it, they say, with a hint of sarcasm, I'm sure. Sector X is the space level, where Andross is building weapons, classic bad guy stuff, and another mech boss. They've got screenshots showing off each level. Corneria looks like city flying, Titania has that weird alien landscape, and Sector X is deep space action. It mentions all new levels, which is a bit obvious. It's a new game, and a bit of a backhanded compliment calling Slippy a Kermit the Frog fellow. Cheeky, but yeah, Star Fox 64, huge game, everyone was waiting for it after the SNES one, and this article just ramps up the anticipation. The N64 saw a US price drop to $149 to compete with PlayStation and Saturn, with potential UK price cuts. The article previews Star Fox 64, calling it a 64-bit update, with a 4-player battle mode, power-ups, and a 3D stick-enabled Lilat system map. A 3DO title, BATTLESPORT, a futuristic hovercraft sports game, is also slated for an N64 release in 1998. Finally, a brain strain quiz tests Nintendo knowledge, covering topics like missing Mortal Kombat 3 bosses, Donkey Kong Country 3 helpers, Star Fox's UK name, the UK Nintendo distributor, and a Super Mario 64 secret. This article previews Boss Game Studios' Top Gear Rally for the N64. Positioned as a Sega Rally challenger, it's an off-road driving sim, featuring diverse environments like forests and mountains, encouraging exploration with shortcuts and hidden areas. The game includes a practice mode and dynamic weather effects. 2 versions are planned. The Japanese version will feature Hondas and Toyotas, while the American version gets a Porsche 911 and a Ford Escort rally spec. Each version will have 9 cars, plus hidden ones. The handling is unique for each car based on its drivetrain. Screenshots showcase snowy, desert, and woodland tracks, with emphasis on graphical details like realistic lighting and environmental effects. The article highlights the snowy conditions, crash barriers, and the driver's adherence to road rules, showcasing the N64's capabilities. The game is slated for an autumn release in the US and Japan. This article discusses a few topics from a gaming magazine. It starts with a controversial Game Boy Pocket poster, and a mention of Super Mario 64's overwhelming popularity. A humorous story about a Turok-inspired zoo incident, and a light-hearted Save the Dinosaur table follow. The main focus is Top Gear Rally. The game features a season-based difficulty structure similar to Mario Kart, along with weather effects and an arcade mode. Technical details confirm a split-screen 2-player mode but not 4, due to limitations. Damage impacts performance, and multiple viewpoints are included. The article includes screenshots, showcasing speedometers, varied track environments, snowy, tunnels, and promising a future preview. N64 news focused on upcoming titles and releases. Duke Nukem 64, a 3D shooter from GT Interactive, was anticipated for mid-97, aiming to surpass Doom 64. Zelda 64, Ocarina of Time, was in development for both cartridge and the 64DD, with the US release slated for early 98. The 64DD, launching in Japan with titles like Mother 3, SimCity 64, and Mario Paint 64, was expected to be expensive. The US release schedule included Dark Rift, May 97, Hexen 64, and Star Fox 64, June 97, with Star Fox 64's release coinciding with the Rumble Pack. Marigold Management was developing 6 new games for N64 and 64DD. Gamatech and Namco also had games in development. Konami showcased Goemon 5, Hyper Olympic, Akumaju Dracula 3D, Castlevania 64, and Battle Dancers. The US top 5 for February 97 were Mario Kart 64, Turok, Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, Super Mario 64, and Wave Race 64. This page is a full-page advert for Twix. Right then, it's got this black and white photo of some bloke looking absolutely terrified, proper gurning face on him. He's wearing a woolly bobble hat with the word NORM written on it, which is a bit on the nose, isn't it? He's holding out his hands like he's trying to ward off a vampire or something, but it's just a massive Twix bar. Now even bigger it says on the wrapper in big yellow letters. Right at the top it says Twix, a break from the norm, in that classic curly Twix font. So I suppose the joke is that this Twix is so big it's a bit out of the ordinary, a break from the norm, and this norm character is shocked by it. Bit daft really, but I suppose it's trying to be a bit different from all the game ads. Maybe after all that talk of Duke Nukem and Zelda and all those flashy new games, they're saying take a breather and have a chocolate bar instead. Clever marketing, I suppose, in a very 90s kind of way. Konami is reviving the quirky Goemon series with a 3D adventure for the N64. The game, planned for a hefty 96 meg cart, promises a larger scope than typical N64 titles. While Goemon is a popular figure in Japan, this installment aims to gain traction in the UK. Goemon 5 will feature familiar faces from the SNES games, including Ebisumaru, Sasuke, and Yae, with the ability to switch between characters and utilize their unique abilities. Gameplay will follow the classic formula: explore levels, battle enemies, collect power-ups, and fight bosses, now in a 3D world reminiscent of Super Mario 64. The N64's graphical capabilities are highlighted, particularly its special effects. Overall, the game is positioned as a distinct, Japanese-style platformer. This article previews several upcoming N64 games. Goemon 5 is highlighted, with comparisons to Mario 64 and mentions of the character Ebisumaru. Quake 64 is also discussed, praised by John Carmack, but potentially facing limitations due to cartridge size, possibly resulting in a cut-down version. Unreal, a game developed by Epic and DMA Design, Rockstar North, is touted as superior to Quake on the N64. Seventh Legion, a real-time strategy game, is also planned for the 64DD. The article notes the rebranding of the N64 controller's Rumble feature as the Rumble Pack, with Star Fox 64 as the first game to utilize it. Finally, EA is confirmed to be developing various sports games for the N64, including FIFA 64, with plans for Madden, NBA Live, and others. Two upcoming N64 games are highlighted. Hudson Soccer, J-League 11 1997, is a soccer game from Hudson Soft, boasting the official J-League license with all 16 teams, and aiming for a summer '97 release. It features various game modes, team customization, weather effects, and a cutesy Japanese style. Exhumed, Buried Alive, is an action game developed by Lobotomy, described as a mix of Doom and Indiana Jones. It promises enhanced graphics and gameplay compared to the PlayStation version, placing players in Egypt to fight mummified monsters with a variety of weapons. The reviewer anticipates action-packed gameplay and praises the game's shoot first, ask questions later approach. This page is a full-page advert for Konami's International Superstar Soccer, plugging the N64 version and also mentioning the PlayStation release too. It's a pretty dramatic image with two silhouetted blokes facing off, wearing England and Germany shirts. Proper classic kits those are. Umbro for England and Adidas for Germany, can't go wrong. It's dated May 1997, so this is around the time when footy fever was really kicking in. Euro 96 had been the previous summer, and everyone was buzzing for the next season. Change the course of history, is the tagline. Pretty bold stuff for a football game, isn't it? International Superstar Soccer was always a decent shout back then, a bit more arcadey than the pure simulation of FIFA, but great fun for a kickabout with your mates. It mentions it's part of the Konami XXL Sports series, so they were pushing their sports games hard at the time. You can see the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 logos at the bottom, making sure everyone knew it was coming to both consoles. Solid advert, gets the point across. This article reviews New for 64, a 3D Bomberman title for the N64, released in summer 1997. Developed by Hudson Soft, the game features 3D levels with mission objectives, a departure from previous 2D iterations. Screenshots showcase environments with lava, bridges, and underwater sections. The article also includes a Japan Direct segment covering the release of a gold Game Boy Pocket in Japan, calling it a collectible gimmick. Finally, it reports on the 1997 Tokyo Toy Show, a massive event dominated by Tamagotchi. Nintendo showcased games like Bomberman, Kirby, Mario Kart, and Pocket Monsters, with accompanying toys and action figures. This article covers news related to N64 and other Nintendo happenings. It starts with a skeptical preview of Board Stiff, a Konami Mahjong puzzler for N64, noting its potential despite the platform's power. Bomberman 64 receives an update with 3D-level screenshots and multiplayer hints, sparking cautious optimism. Next, a bizarre Street Fighter II simulation ride in Japan is detailed, where players experience a virtual battle featuring classic characters. Nintendo is launching a swap shop system for Super Famicom, allowing users to copy games onto blank cartridges for a lower price. Pokémon's anime debut on Japanese TV on April 1st is announced, promising to boost the franchise's popularity. Finally, the N64 Japanese release schedule for April to June 1997 is listed, along with the February 1997 top 5, with Mario Kart 64 leading the charts. Chameleon Twist, a new puzzle platformer for the N64, is highlighted, promising challenging gameplay using the chameleon's tongue. The preview suggests a blocky aesthetic but hints at addictive puzzle mechanics. Time Capsule revisits older magazine issues. NMS number 31 reviewed games like Addams Family Values and Front Mission, also mentioning early N64 rumors. NMS number 7 showcased NES reviews and early SNES conversions of Neo Geo games. Other news includes Fire developing a PAL converter and steering wheel for the N64. Sega's Jun Fujimoto hinted at 64DD networking. The Tamagotchi was expected in the UK, Ubisoft confirmed Human Grand Prix, and speculation surrounded a possible enhanced N64 version of Tomb Raider. Special Reserve, a retro gaming retailer, is advertising Nintendo 64 consoles and games. The ad highlights launch titles like Super Mario 64, Pilot Wings 64, Shadows of the Empire, and Turok. They offer bundles, including the console with a controller and memory card for £239.99, along with financing options. Additional controllers, including specialist sticks, are available. The ad also features Sony CRT TVs, freebies with purchases like headphones and VHS tapes, and a competition with a Lotus Elise as the top prize. Special Reserve encouraged membership for access to its magazine and deals. Overall, the advert aimed to be a comprehensive destination for N64 enthusiasts, capturing the essence of gaming culture at the time. This page has a look at Wild Choppers, which is shaping up to be a helicopter shoot-'em-up for the N64, a bit like those Strike games back in the day, but hopefully a bit more polished for the new console. Seta are the developers, and it's slated for a 64 meg cart, but no release date yet. Typical. They're promising a bunch of different helicopters to pilot and loads of weapons to play with, including cluster bombs, and even a dummy missile to trick enemy fighters. Sounds a bit naughty. The screenshots look alright, plenty of explosions and aggressive-looking helicopters. They're definitely pushing the aggressive paintwork angle. Then at the bottom there's a piece about Mario Mania at the Tomorrow's World live show in Birmingham. Apparently the Nintendo Challenger bus was the star of the show, drawing massive crowds all wanting a go on Super Mario 64 and Shadows of the Empire. It sounds like when Mario himself showed up on a balcony, all hell broke loose with fans going properly mental. Even Prince Andrew was there, but got a bit lost in the Mario frenzy, bless him. Adrian Doherty, the roadshow manager, is quoted saying how packed the bus has been, even opening early for exhibitors to have a go. And the page finishes with a photo of Mario waving to the crowds, with a caption saying he's off for pizza. Sounds like a typical day in the life of Mario. This review compares 4 N64 controllers: the official Nintendo controller, the SuperPad 64 Plus, the Arcade Shark 64, and the Spook N64 controller. The official controller receives praise for its 3D stick, but criticism for its D-pad and C buttons. The SuperPad 64 Plus, resembling a PlayStation controller, is decent for fighting games due to its C buttons, and offers slow motion and auto-fire. The Arcade Shark 64, designed for arcade games, features a joystick and large buttons, and is recommended for arcade titles like Killer Instinct Gold. The Spook N64 controller is deemed a cheap imitation with a poor D-pad, though it features large C buttons and racing game functionality. The review concludes that the official controller remains the best choice for most games, but the other options provide specialized functionality. A news story reports thieves stealing 5 N64 consoles and games from a shop, ignoring PlayStation's, highlighting N64's popularity. An ad for Blockbuster Video offered N64 rentals, including games like Super Mario 64 and Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, with a substantial deposit. A review slams Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise for its poor graphics and gameplay. A Mega Memory cartridge from Daytel is reviewed, offering a large storage capacity at a price. A section explores the surprising meanings of Nintendo character names, like Yoshi, respectful. Finally, readers are asked to return their magazine for missing freebies, posters and tips books. This issue's reviews begin with introductions to the Nintendo magazine team, highlighting their personalities. Ex-editor Dave Upchurch was known for his love of pies, while current editor Simon Clays has seemingly transformed after a trip to the US. The section then quickly dives into game reviews, starting with a football focus, comparing ISS 64 and FIFA 64. Several Game Boy titles received scores in the 70s. An unexpected score of 75 was given to Doraemon on the N64. The magazine explains its rating system. Finally, What's Hot in Our Slots lists the top 5 featured games: ISS 64, Turok, Blast Corps, Wave Race 64, N64, and Bomberman 5, SNES. This review previews International Superstar Soccer 64, with high expectations given Konami's pedigree in football games. The reviewer anticipates a strong entry, citing the popularity of soccer sims. The preview highlights several match modes: Open Game, International Cup, and World League. Screenshots show handicap settings, allowing adjustments to player condition and goalie skill. Game info includes a £59.99 price tag, a June release, a 64 meg cart size, and the use of a memory pack for saving progress. The review suggests that players familiar with the Super NES ISS will recognize the gameplay. Overall, the preview indicates a promising and well-regarded soccer game for the N64. International Superstar Soccer 64 boasts impressive 4-player support on the N64. The game features camera angles similar to the Super NES version, with added zoom and movement options, though the default view is recommended. The It's Your Call, Coach section highlights team management aspects, including selecting starting lineups and considering player fitness. The game emphasizes strategic player choices, especially in dead ball situations like free kicks and corners, where player skill matters. Screenshots showcase classic England players like Banks, Moore, and Keegan, suggesting a nostalgic appeal. Overall, the preview suggests a fun and engaging football game, particularly for multiplayer enjoyment. This guide to International Superstar Soccer 64 focuses on gameplay tactics and player skills. It starts with a quick note on bypassing the coin toss. The main section details various preset team strategies, like all-out attack, center attack, and defensive options such as all-out defense and offside trap. Diagrams illustrate player positions for each tactic, which can be changed during the game. The guide then moves on to player skills, highlighting moves like the overhead flick, the step over, and the overhead kick. It emphasizes the importance of mastering the controls beyond basic passing and shooting to improve gameplay. This guide page for International Superstar Soccer 64 delves into weather conditions and gameplay tips. The Always Take the Weather With You section covers sunny, offering normal gameplay, rain, making possession and defense crucial due to slippery conditions, and snow, slowing players and emphasizing passing. The tips section provides basic attacking strategies. Keep Up is a flashy, albeit pointless, header tactic. Through Pass advises on timing to split defenses. Cross emphasizes using the radar for accurate crosses. 1-2 recommends the classic pass and move tactic to get behind defenders. The guide offers essential information, valuable for N64 gamers seeking to improve their gameplay, covering weather and basic attacking plays in the game. Tactic. This page in the magazine takes a look at International Superstar Soccer 64, and it seems they're particularly impressed with the commentary, which is a fair point. It was pretty decent at the time. The reviewer, whoever he is, reckons it's better than using real commentators, which might be a bit of a stretch, but it's certainly enthusiastic. Then there's a bit about substitutions, in a section called Bring on the Sub. Common sense stuff really. Keep an eye on your players getting tired and make changes. It suggests pausing the game to make a sub, which again, yeah, that's how you do it back then. Really. The best bit is the section called Celebrate Good Times, Come On, which is all about the goal celebrations. They've highlighted a few of the classics, like the aeroplane, which they credit to some fella called Jan Aj Fjortoft, and the cradle, apparently pinched from the Brazilians. Punch the air, on your knees, star run and pick up ball are all mentioned too, each with a little screenshot showing what they look like in the game. It's a fun reminder of all the little touches they put into ISS 64. Even if some of the celebrations are a bit daft, like crawling around on your hands and knees. Very South American apparently. Overall, it's a pretty positive look at the game, and rightly so. It was a proper good footy game for the N64 back in the day. This mail-order advertisement from Excitement Direct highlights the early days of the Nintendo 64. They're offering deals on N64 bundles, including Wave Race 64 with a controller. The game selection features launch titles like Mario 64, Turok, and Cruisin' USA, with prices comparable to the time. Alongside the N64, the ad also features games for other consoles like SNES Killer Instinct, DKC2, Sega Saturn, Daytona USA, Tomb Raider, PlayStation, Tekken 2, Resident Evil, Game Boy, and even the aging Sega Genesis, Sonic 3D. Accessories, like controllers, memory cards, and rumble packs, are available. The ad includes an order form for mail-in purchases, emphasizing payment methods like checks and postal orders, reflecting a bygone era of gaming. This text humorously critiques International Superstar Soccer 64, ISS 64, focusing on its missing goal celebrations. The article highlights the lack of celebrations compared to real-life football, showcasing funny examples like the Klinsmann dive and duck walk. Despite this, it praises the game's replay feature, allowing for cool camera angles and slow-motion replays. The piece also mentions player creation, with its cryptic skill adjustments, and the scenario mode, where players face specific match objectives, like scoring a free kick to win. It concludes by reminiscing about the importance of the memory pack for saving progress, emphasizing the vital role it played in preserving player data and tactics. International Superstar Soccer 64, ISS 64, received rave reviews, lauded for its realistic gameplay and graphics. The game allowed for physical play, offering different tackle options like form, sliding, and shoulder charge, mirroring the aggressive style of football at the time. Reviewers like Simon Clays called it the best football game ever, praising its graphics and playability, even on the PAL conversion. Sean White echoed this sentiment, highlighting its superior gameplay compared to 16-bit titles. The game earned impressive scores: graphics 93, sound 88, playability 94, and lastability 91, resulting in an overall 93% rating. The reviewers highlighted the game's realistic graphics, immersive sound, intuitive gameplay, and lasting appeal, concluding that ISS64 was a must-have for football and N64 fans, offering a near-perfect representation of the sport. FIFA 64 for the N64 is a direct competitor to Konami's soccer offerings. EA's offering, leveraging its official license, features real teams and players, a major selling point. The game includes teams from prominent European leagues and 64 international squads, with updated player rosters reflecting transfers. The review highlights the game's features, including the world-in-motion gameplay and mentions of iconic players. It showcases screenshots and details the game's release information. Electronic Arts published it, priced at £59.99. Released March 27, 1997, it's a football simulation playable by 1 to 4 players, utilizing a 64 meg cart, and saving progress with a memory pack. The review suggests FIFA 64 could rival ISS 64. This document reviews FIFA 64 on the N64, highlighting its game modes and features. It begins with the familiar EA slogan and then outlines the core gameplay options. Players could choose from friendly mode for quick matches, league mode for a full season, tournament mode for a mini-league followed by a knockout stage, and playoff mode, a knockout tournament. The review also delves into team management, allowing players to adjust formations, like 442, 451, and 424, individual player settings, and overall game strategy, attack or defense. While the computer selects the strongest team by default, customization is encouraged. The document includes classic in-game banter and boasts about FIFA's global sales, emphasizing its popularity and the excitement surrounding its official licenses for teams and players. The review of FIFA 64 highlights the then novel use of real commentators, John Motson and Andy Gray, with Des Lynam also present for added authenticity. The reviewer criticizes the controls, specifically the difficulty in using the C buttons for advanced moves and attempting the rainbow kick. A Man in Motion section praises the motion capture technology, noting the inclusion of David Ginola for animation. The review then details team selections, including Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea, accompanied by player names like Bergkamp and Fowler. Each team receives ratings, indicated by football icons and various stat categories, reflecting the game's emphasis on statistics. The review originates from Official Nintendo Magazine, page 32. This text explores the features of FIFA 64, focusing on its depth and options. The review highlights the extensive customization options, including game length, fouls, injuries, pitch condition, hot, dry, damp or drenched, and pitch size. It also praises the variety of camera angles, boasting no fewer than 8 different views. The game's control system is discussed, with difficulty levels from novice to pro. The pro level emphasizes realistic gameplay, where excessive force could lead to losing possession. Finally, the review features humorous goal celebration screenshots with witty captions, concluding with EA Sports' market share at the time. The overall aim is to position FIFA 64 as the ultimate football gaming experience. This page continues the review of FIFA 64, going on about how crazy the goal celebrations are, and the replay feature. They bang on about how after every goal you can relive it with action replays and even frame by frame showing off all the camera angles, which they mentioned before. There are loads. Apparently this replay feature is perfect for rubbing your opponent's nose in it, which sounds about right for the time. There's also a little table there rating teams, the usual suspects like Man United, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, and giving them nicknames, and listing a star man and worst man for each club, along with a FIFA 64 rating. A bit of fun for the fans, I suppose. It also mentions FIFA owning a massive chunk of the football games market, like 57%, and that FIFA 97 was #1 on every platform. They really pushed FIFA back then, didn't they? Then there's a section called Sale of the Season, raving about how FIFA Soccer has been the top football game since way back in '93 on the Sega Mega Drive, and there's been a hit on everything since, even outselling something called Long Country. They're really pushing the sales angle, saying FIFA is the Christmas #1. Bit much, but it was a massive franchise back then, you can't argue with that. This review of FIFA 64 features screenshots showcasing gameplay elements like long throws and shots, as well as the picture-in-picture and radar features. The review includes comments from Stephen Fulljames and Sean White, both highly critical. Fulljames believes the game is inferior to the PlayStation version and ISS64, citing slow gameplay, small sprites, and poor control. White is even harsher, calling it a disappointment with slow, jerky gameplay and terrible controls. He recommends ISS64 instead. A breakdown section offers mixed scores for various aspects of the game. Final scores are given: graphics 82%, sound 83%, playability 63%, and lastability 66%, resulting in an overall score of 67%. The review concludes by stating that the game failed to impress and was unlikely to convert players who preferred ISS64. This head-to-head comparison between International Superstar Soccer 64, ISS64, and FIFA 64 favors ISS64. ISS64 offers 36 international teams, while FIFA 64 boasts more, including Premier League teams. However, ISS64's gameplay is preferred. Dorrington Norcus. FIFA 64 has superior pre-match options and more camera angles. ISS64 excels in responsiveness and gameplay quality, which is smoother and faster. FIFA 64's controls are described as sluggish. Commentary is better in FIFA 64, although its quality can vary. Fiedels. Ultimately, ISS64 receives a 5/5 score, while FIFA 64 gets a 3/5. The review concludes that ISS64 is the superior N64 soccer game. This page features a collection of GameShop advertisements from the past. Nintendo Magazine itself advertises reservations. ChipShop 2000 offers buying, selling and trading of games and hardware, expanding to a larger Liverpool location. CA Games in Glasgow sells new and used games for various consoles. Aurora Games promotes N64 games like Mario, Pilot Wings, and Killer Instinct at £65 each. Ultraplay also advertises N64 games, including FIFA 64, along with accessories. Finally, Skill Academy sells the N64 console itself, along with a similar lineup of games. The page concludes with a small advertisement from the Advertising Standards Authority. The page showcases the competitive gaming market of the time, with shops vying for customers. Powerful Pro Baseball on N64, a curveball from Konami after their success with International Superstar Soccer 64, is reviewed. Despite the title's niche appeal in the reviewer's region, the game is a massive hit in Japan, with a history on Super NES. The reviewer, though surprised, finds a deep baseball sim, despite its pepperpot player visuals. The game features notable details, including the ability to play as a dog, and adjustments to the catcher's glove after pitching. Player fitness is strangely linked to their happy faces in the menu. The game also includes ticket purchasing and selling options. The box confirms it is a baseball sim for 1 or 2 players with a 64 meg cart, no battery backup but saves the season, published by Konami, and available through import. Konami's Powerful Pro Baseball on N64 offers a blend of familiar and challenging gameplay. Pitching and batting, dubbed Pitch and a Punch, resemble Imagineer's King of Pro Baseball, but with added catch-a-mitt movement, potentially adding complexity. Fielding is described as difficult due to the absence of a landing marker, making it hard to follow the ball's trajectory. The game boasts official Japanese teams, logos, and stadiums for authenticity. Player rankings are adjusted, and initially, it's challenging to differentiate between players. Substitutions are possible, with player fitness indicated by smiley faces. Base running is simplified. Throwing to bases involves button presses. Overall, the game seems to balance depth and the quirky, sometimes confusing, nature of a Japanese import title. Konami's Powerful Pro Baseball for N64 is reviewed, detailing batting techniques like swing away and full swing, with target cursors for different skill levels. The game features crowd noise enhanced by Konami's response sound system, similar to International Superstar Soccer 64. Graphics are typical N64 fare, blocky but colorful, with screenshots showcasing replays and fielders scrambling. The reviewer, Sean White, finds the gameplay challenging, especially batting and fielding. While he acknowledges the game's potential for baseball enthusiasts, he recommends Imagineer's King of Pro Baseball for a more enjoyable experience. The game is deemed a mixed bag, not a total failure but not a standout either. This page provides cheat codes for the N64 game, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Featured are several cheats to enhance gameplay. Robin's Cheat, RBNMTH, grants infinite lives, weapons, ammo, and big head mode. Spirit Mode, THSSLKSCL, speeds up Turok while slowing everything else. Other codes include Infinite Ammo, BLTSRRFRND, Pen and Ink Mode, DLKTDR, for wireframe visuals, the Gallery, THBST, to view enemies, Disco Mode, SNFFRR for a surprise, all weapons, CMGTS MMGGTS, to unlock all weapons, including the Chronoceptor, credits, FDTHMGS, to view the game's credits, and Infinite Lives, FRTHSTHTTRLSCK. These cheats aim to ease the difficulty of the game, and provide fun alterations to gameplay. Whoa! This issue's tips focus on retro and next-gen classics. For Donkey Kong Country 3, corrected cheat codes are revealed, including codes to remove DK barrels, HARDR, erase high scores, erase, and collect all bear coins, using water after the button combo and Simon Says game. For Mario 64, 2 tricks are highlighted. The Slab Beast trick lets Mario survive impact, making coin collection easier, but tricky. The Staircase Madness glitch allows Mario to clip through stairs, potentially saving time in speedruns. This retro gaming page features cheat codes and tips for classic SNES and Game Boy games. For NBA Hang Time on SNES, players can enter codes on the VS screen using the Y, B, and A buttons for various advantages like unlimited turbo. Maui Mallard passcodes allow players to skip levels, with codes provided for levels 2 through 8. On the Game Boy, Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening players can make arrows explode by equipping both bombs and arrows. Finally, a Funcom development team photo can be unlocked by entering FUNCOM as the name, and 1993 as the pin. This Tip Center magazine page offers solutions for various game challenges. Richard, the shoot-'em-up expert, provides codes for Super R-Type, Stage Select, and Vortex, password cheats. He also reveals there are no cheats for Doom on the SNES, instead offering a level trick. John, the RPG guru, assists with puzzles in Secret of Evermore, Greenhouse Plants, and Mystic Quest, Medusa Cave location. He helps with Link's Awakening, Boomerang location, in a cheeky manner. The page highlights the challenges players faced in the early days of gaming, offering a nostalgic glimpse into the era. The Nintendo Hot Help section offers game tips. Grape covers fighting games, including Mortal Kombat 2, Kintaro Morph, Hold Low Punch, and Killer Instinct, Spinal Morph, Down, Down, Punch/Kick. He confirms no anomalies in SNES Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. For Street Fighter Alpha 2, the Raging Demon with Akuma requires a level 3 superbar and a complex button combination. Screenshots show these games in action. Kiyoyotiyo. James focuses on platformers, mainly Super Mario 64, which he's clearly answered before. He provides the locations of the red, blue, and green Switch palaces, each with varying degrees of difficulty to find. The article ends with a call to action for readers to submit their game questions via phone hotline 01703652222, a relic of a bygone era. Menged. This page is diving right into Pilotwings 64, and it's part 2 of their guide, specifically for the pilot class tests. They're saying these are the toughest, so no kidding around if you haven't mastered the basics. It's got tips for 2 hang glider tests here called Goose and Ibis, both set in little states. For the Goose test, they're telling you to head straight for the thermal at the start, then follow a sequence of thermals to gain altitude, aiming for 700 meters eventually, all within 4 minutes. Sounds like a bit of a thermal hopping exercise. The Ibis test seems to be about flying through rings near a waterfall, then following the river to another thermal, and landing in a bullseye. Bit more ring-focused this one, starting from higher up near a waterfall, and dropping down. Each test has a little screenshot to give you a visual hint, showing the hang glider in action. Right at the bottom it's confirmed these tips are from the Nintendo hotline, just like on the last page, so you know it's official advice back in the day when hotlines were actually a thing. They really were pushing this Pilotwings 64 game, weren't they? Good game though, to be fair. This guide continues the Pilotwings 64 pilot class training, focusing on 2 hang glider tests in little states, Thermal Flyer and Wing Creek. Thermal Flyer challenges players to use thermals to reach a landing point before they disappear after 4 minutes. Wing Creek is a ring course requiring players to fly through at least 8 rings before landing, and then another 8 for bonus points. The guide highlights the view map and hint buttons. The text reminisces about the era when players relied on a Nintendo hotline for game tips, contrasting it with today's online resources, showing how much gaming has changed. This guide offers tips for Pilotwings 64's hang glider and rocket belt tests. The Shutterbug 3 hang glider test requires taking photos of a sea monster, passenger boat, and space shuttle before landing. The Dark Cavern rocket belt test involves navigating a cave quickly, while Touch and Go 2 challenges players to touch floating pads in a specific order. For the hang glider and Touch and Go 2, Goose or Lark are playable. Lark or Kiwi are options for Dark Cavern. The tips, verified by the Nintendo hotline, reflect the era before online resources. This page continues the Pilotwings 64 guide, and this time it's all about the Rocket Belt challenges, specifically Diamond Head on Crescent Island. Looks like you can play as Robin or Goose for this one. The objective, as it says, is to crash into this bouncing green ball and then push it into the goal area. Simple enough, right? Except of course there's a catch. Apparently there are some strong crosswinds to contend with. The guide here suggests not to fly directly towards the goal if the wind is pushing sideways, which makes sense, doesn't it? Instead, you're supposed to get behind the ball and push it west towards the sea. Then, once it's in the water, you line yourself up with the goal. A little tip here is to bump the ball on the bottom to avoid launching it sky high and making things even harder. They reckon if you follow this, you should have plenty of time to spare, which is always good to know when you're sweating about those 2-minute time limits. And like before, these tips are verified by the Nintendo hotline, bless them. Back in the day when you couldn't just look up a walkthrough online, you had to actually phone someone. Those were the days. This article provides tips for 3 gyrocopter P-class challenges in Pilotwings 64. Ice Hornet on Everfrost Island focuses on flying through rings, emphasizing the use of spin to navigate the course. Balloon Rush, also on Everfrost Island, involves popping balloons, with a focus on a perfect landing. The final challenge, Mecha Hawk on Little States, is more complex, requiring players to chase and destroy boulders thrown by Mecha Hawk while accounting for strong winds. The goal is to hit Mecha Hawk 5 times and then land on the runway. Achieving all gold medals earns the player the compliment, "You're a genius!" This page carries on with the Pilotwings 64 tips, focusing on the Mecha Hawk Again challenge. Looks like the last of the gyrocopter P-class challenges. They're still banging on about Everfrost Island and Little States, telling you to hit Mecha Hawk 5 times with missiles and then land on the runway to complete the test. It mentions strong winds, so you know it's going to be a bit of a pain. They reckon gold medals across the board get you a "You're a genius," which you know is nice, I suppose. Down the side you've got this massive bloke, with a proper 90s polygonal face, and a red and black getup. He looks like he could be in Pilotwings somehow, but who knows. And then there's a bunch of the Pilotwings characters all grouped together, looking up with "Watch the Skies" plastered above them. Bit dramatic for popping balloons and flying through rings, isn't it? The screenshots show more of the in-game action, speed readouts, fuel, sea level, all the usual stuff you'd expect to see in Pilotwings. Right at the bottom it reminds you that all these tips are verified by the Nintendo hotline, back in the day when you actually had to phone up for help with games. And it's issue 51 of the official UK Nintendo magazine, in case you were wondering when this nugget of wisdom came out. This guide focuses on Pilotwings 64's bonus games, specifically Cannonball and Skydiving. For Cannonball, a detailed table provides precise settings for angles and power at each level, 1 to 3, to ensure accurate shots. The Skydiving section offers step-by-step instructions for each level. Level 1, at Crescent Island, guides you through specific formations and turns, identifying characters to face. Level 2, at Holiday Island, increases the difficulty with more complex maneuvers. Level 3, at Everfrost Island, is designed for experts. The skydiving instructions include parachute opening height and landing advice. Screenshots show the gameplay, emphasizing the timer and altitude readouts. The guide aims to help players successfully complete these bonus challenges and earn gold medals. This guide provides tips for Pilotwings 64's Jumblehoppers bonus games. Level 3 in Little States with Hawk involves quick turns, roll jumps over hills and a canyon, and radar monitoring. Level 2 at Crescent Island uses rolling jumps with either Goose or Hawk along the coastline, navigating trees and cliffs. Level 1 on Holiday Island with Ibisis requires precise somersault jumps, 2 forward jumps, a left somersault over water, another somersault to the hangar, and a final forward jump to the goal. The advice concludes with a celebratory bye-bye message, awarding a gold medal and pilot's license, and a blast from the past, the Nintendo hotline for game assistance. This guide covers Chapter 2 of Terranigma, focusing on the Evergreen area. It begins inside a tree, detailing the acquisition of items from Grey Pods, including the Ray Spear. Level B1F presents boulder puzzles and a river crossed by smashing fish. A plant enemy requires a dash attack, leading to the rescue of Lily, a flower. Lily provides the green leaves that grant swimming ability, necessary to navigate B5F and return to her. Talking to Lily again gets you a raw dewdrop. After swimming, the guide advises entering a door on B2F, remembering to use the raw dewdrop for protection. Tire. The chapter culminates in a boss fight against the bug. The strategy involves dash attacks and targeting its red eye. This chapter includes puzzle solving, item collection, and a boss fight, typical RPG gameplay elements. Chapter 2 of the Terranigma Guide continues with a focus on cavern exploration after leaving the Evergreen area. The guide details navigating the caves, starting with acquiring the grass pin for healing and traveling to Guyana. Players then explore the caverns, solving boulder puzzles, releasing a golem, and obtaining a STR potion. Later steps involve acquiring the rock spear to move rocks, climbing vines, and finding a Magirock and Periton Street. The guide concludes with a boss fight against the Great Bird, detailing its fireball and twister attacks. The strategy involves attacking its head 3 times before it flies off. The guide highlights standard RPG gameplay elements, backtracking for items, dungeon crawling, and learning boss patterns. This page continues the Terranigma walkthrough. Looks like we're still knee-deep in it. It's the tip centra in it, proper old-school guide style. Steps 19 through 28 here are all about navigating some caverns and finding these rainfall altars. Classic dungeon crawling stuff. So it starts off telling you to chat with birds to learn about the king, then you're climbing cliffs and vines, all standard action RPG fare. Then it's boulder puzzles, naturally. Every game back then had boulder puzzles. You gotta drop boulders into pits, find sanctuaries, the usual. Then there's talk of shopkeeper spirits, and buying stuff to get to Zoo County. Sounds like classic item hunting and exploration. The guide mentions rainfall altars and spirits you need to find by beating monsters, toads, lizards and the like. You're using a rock spear to smash rocks, pushing blocks in water, typical puzzle solving of the era. Why? It's all very linear, step by step, just like you'd expect from a magazine guide back in the day. Remember carefully reading these things to get past a tricky bit? Good times. Looks like they are guiding you through finding spirits and unlocking these altars to progress further in the game. Standard stuff, but essential if you wanted to get anywhere without phoning a premium rate number for help. The guide continues the Terranigma adventure. Step 29 involves swimming and defeating a lizard to reach the 3rd altar. Step 30 is navigating streams and battling a pagan boss. Step 31 provides boss battle tips, focusing on dodging attacks and hitting the main body. Step 32 involves talking to lions and learning about a trapped king's son, leading to a rescue mission. Step 33 involves canyon exploration, bird battles, and finding the cub. Step 34 presents a boulder puzzle to assist the cub. Step 35 has bridge crossings and boulder throwing at mud dolls. Step 36 involves returning to Safarium, speaking with King Neo, and receiving Neo's Fang. Step 37 moves the adventure west to Arabia, Tibet, and the Eklamata Mountains. The next issue promises more characters, bosses, and locations. The Classic Corner revisits the Star Wars Super NES trilogy, Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, and Super Return of the Jedi, coinciding with a budget re-release. For Super Star Wars, use the debug menu code A X B B B Y X X X A Y Y Y B to hear Utini and access invincibility. In Super Empire Strikes Back, kneel and lightsaber the A1A1 cockpit pilot, use spinning attacks on the Dagobah swamp creature's flashing face, and block then attack Darth Vader. For Super Return of the Jedi, use Chewbacca to defeat Boba Fett by blasting turrets and using the Kashyyykian spin. These tips are helpful for players revisiting these SNES classics. This article revisits the Super Star Wars trilogy on the SNES, prompted by a budget re-release. Super Star Wars 1992 received a stellar 93% upon release. Super Empire Strikes Back, 1993, earned an 83%. Super Return of the Jedi, 1994, initially scored a 92%, but was re-evaluated at 70%. The article provides level codes and debug mode cheat codes for both Super Empire Strikes Back and Super Return of the Jedi. The Empire Strikes Back cheat requires 2 controllers and a specific button sequence to access a debug menu. Return of the Jedi also has a 2-controller debug mode cheat and a simpler 99 lives cheat. A tip for defeating the Emperor and a nostalgic nod to Nintendo's hotline for help are also included. Scorelord, a recurring figure in the Tips Center, challenges readers to beat his high scores in various games. This month's challenges feature 3 titles: Super Mario 64, Race Cooper the Quick, Pilot Wings 64, Gyrocopter, Test 2, and International Superstar Soccer Deluxe, exhibition match as England vs Germany. Previous winners are showcased in the winner's podium for games like Donkey Kong Country 3, Mario Kart, and Killer Instinct. Prizes include Nintendo Magazine subscriptions. The article also provides tips on taking photos of TV screens for proof of scores, with a submission deadline of April 30, 1997. This page is a subscription advert for the official Nintendo magazine. Proper retro stuff this. Subscribe and you get a free 10 HMV voucher, which back then was a decent chunk towards a new game, especially if you were saving your pocket money. Plus you get entered into a draw to win an N64 console. Everyone wanted one of those at the time, didn't they? It's got a bit of a quiz to enter. First question asks which famous person opened the Level 1 Games department at HMV, with Chris Evans as an option. Remember him? Bit of a lad back in the 90s. The second question asks which street their biggest games department was on. Oxford Street obviously, where else? Then there's a tiebreaker. HMV is the store for gamers because you had to finish that in 10 words or less. Probably something about being the only place to get your N64 fix back then. Cheshire. There's a subscription form to fill in if you wanted to post it off. Remember postal orders? Seems ages ago. Classic Nintendo magazine branding and Mario at the bottom. Simple times really. Want an N64? Subscribe to the magazine. Doraemon 64, a Japan-only N64 release, is reviewed as a blatant Mario 64 clone, boasting a 99% similarity. The game stars Doraemon, a popular Japanese character, a blue robot cat, and follows a simple plot involving magical crystals and rescuing Nobita. Visually, it's typical N64 fare, colorful and blocky. Gameplay includes dragon riding, underwater levels with hazards, and a boss inspired by Night TS. The review notes derivative level design, with standard platforming elements like tricky platforms and tree climbing. The game is a single-player 3D platformer published by Epoch, a less common Nintendo publisher. It's a 64 meg cart with battery backup, but no multiplayer. The reviewer concludes that it's a fairly typical 3D platformer riding the Mario 64 wave, and only recommended for hardcore Doraemon fans, or those desperate for a new N64 platformer. This page delves deeper into Doraemon 64, continuing the theme from the previous page that it's a bit of a Mario 64 knockoff, but they are being polite about it. The title itself, It's A-M-E-E-R Doraemon, is a cheeky nod to Mario's catchphrase. They're really laying it on thick with the comparisons, showing screenshots side by side to highlight the coincidences. They point out the tree designs are practically identical to Mario 64's, and even joke about it being from the same graphics library. There's a bit of sarcasm in the tone, like when they say it's so blatant it hurts, and suggest it would be indistinguishable in a police identity parade. They're definitely having a laugh at its expense. They also pick up on the gameplay similarities, noting the flowerbed enemies that snap at you, just like in Mario, and sliding blocks on ledges. They even mention extra vehicular activity, like riding a red dragon or using a sports car with torpedoes in underwater levels, which sounds like they're trying to give it some credit for having its own ideas, but it's all still very much in the shadow of Mario 64. It's clear they think it's borrowing a lot of ideas, but they are trying to be fair, acknowledging that maybe it's not completely identical. It's a bit cheeky, but that was the style back then, wasn't it? This article continues coverage of Doraemon 64, emphasizing its similarities to Mario 64. The PMEUP section discusses item collection to unlock levels, showcasing items like the Errol tube and handlebars. Gian is humorously depicted as a useless character due to his singing and physical limitations. The My Best Friend section highlights the 5 playable characters. Doraemon's abilities include a bubble gun and magic pouch, Nobita can jump higher, and Shizuka uses cherry bombs. The article is filled with screenshots and a game over screen, reinforcing the game's Mario-esque design on the N64. Doraemon 64 is a game based on the massively popular Japanese franchise. The review introduces the game, showing screenshots and character bios. Shizuka is agile and uses cherry bombs. Gian's terrible singing is a recurring joke, and he wields bubble-shooting tree wasps. Sunio is quick and uses boxing gloves. Corona, a princess, floats behind the player. The reviewer, Stephen Fulljames, critiques the game, calling it a Mario 64 ripoff, with similar graphics but inferior textures. The music is acceptable, but sound effects are poor. While there's a slight RPG element, the game feels derivative. Ultimately, the review suggests only devoted Doraemon fans would enjoy this Mario clone, implying better gaming options are available. This review of Super Bomberman 5 for Super Nintendo highlights the game's adherence to the classic Bomberman formula. It introduces new elements like Clockman, a chaotic character with screen-clearing abilities, and warp holes for random level transitions. Riding a cockhorse unveils the Ruiz, rideable creatures granting power-ups and special bomb-related abilities, each with humorous 90s-style personalities. The game is a Japanese import from Hudson Soft, described as a puzzle game supporting 1 to 5 players with a battle mode. It features a 16 meg cart with password-only saves. The review is filled with screenshots and classic Bomberman gameplay visuals, concluding with a kaboom graphic and a Nintendo Magazine bronze seal of quality. This review from official UK Nintendo Magazine, issue 67, raves about Super Bomberman 5 for the Super Nintendo. The review highlights the game's power-ups, including speed boosts, and special bomb types like the tracker bomb and penetrating bomb. The review then covers the Practice Makes Perfect feature, awarding certificates for completing the game. The Blast section emphasizes the battle mode as the game's highlight, a fun multiplayer experience. Sean White's comment praises the return to the classic formula, but suggests the game might not offer enough new for existing fans. The scores awarded are Graphics, 78, Sound, 76, Playability, 85, and Lastability, 84, with an overall score of 81%. The review concludes that while fun, the game is best suited for newcomers and dedicated Bomberman fans. This page features a review of Wave Race for the Game Boy. Right off the bat, they're having a laugh, saying Nintendo finally got around to releasing it in the UK, after Wave Race 64 on the N64 was already a big deal in the States and Japan. Bit cheeky, innit? The review introduces us to ace wave racer Slick Wilson, who's trying to dominate this National Series Watercraft Championship. There are screenshots showing the game's menus you can choose between circuit and slalom events, and different engine classes like 550cc, 650cc, and 800cc. Another picture shows what happens when you get 4 races together on screen chaos, naturally. And another one highlights having to steer clear of water currents if you want to win. The review talks about the National Series being made up of these circuit and slalom events, and you progress through the engine classes, starting at 550cc, and moving up to 800cc if you're good enough. They even mention a World Series if you're really skilled. Down at the bottom there's a game facts box, racing game, 1 to 4 players, race mode for multiplayer, 4 meg cart, battery save, memory pack isn't used, price is £9.99, and it's out in mid-May. All standard stuff for a Game Boy title back then. It's a decent enough handheld racer from the looks of it, even if they are a bit late to the party after the N64 version blew everyone away with its 3D water. A Life on the Ocean Waves reviews Wave Race for Game Boy, focusing on gameplay. The game features circuit races against opponents across various courses, and slalom events prioritizing skillful maneuvering through pylons. Racing all over the world highlights exotic locations like the Bahamas and Miami, promising challenging course layouts. Players choose between different personal watercrafts, PWCs, from the beginner-friendly 550cc to the high-speed, difficult-to-control 800cc. A turbo boost mechanic, earned by avoiding pylons and activated with the A button, adds a tactical element. Screenshots showcase typical racing scenarios. The review suggests the game attempts to offer more depth than a typical Game Boy racer through these features. This review of Wave Race on the Game Boy details the challenges faced on the courses, including obstacles like pylons, jump platforms, shallow waters, and whirlpools. Power-ups, such as the octopus for turbo boosts and the dolphin for improved control, offer some assistance. The review features a harsh commentary from Dave McComb, who calls the game truly awful due to dated graphics, cheap CPU tricks, and the overall experience. Despite this, he later refers to it as a classic. The game receives low scores. Graphics, 50%, sound, 40%, playability, 55%, and lastability, 45%. The overall score is a disappointing 50%, with the reviewer noting the game's failure to live up to its N64 counterpart. The review concludes by advising players to seek alternative Game Boy experiences. Warrington. This issue features 4 Game Boy game reviews. Multiplayer Mayhem is a top-down powerboat racing game with multiplayer via Game Link cables, aiming for a National Series championship. Budget Bonanza highlights Ocean Software's budget re-releases, including Super Hunchback, a platformer, which is considered a good value. Desert Strike is a port of the helicopter-based shooter, praised for its gameplay despite simplified graphics. Waterworld, based on the film, offers swashbuckling action in a sunken city, but is criticized for its average graphics, gameplay, and poor plot. The reviews give scores ranging from 55% Waterworld to 84% Desert Strike. Mole Mania, a Game Boy puzzle game from Nintendo, offers a unique experience for handheld fans. The game follows Muddy Mole, a cabbage farmer, whose family is kidnapped by the evil Jinbei. Players guide Muddy through puzzle-filled levels, digging and burrowing to rescue his family. The gameplay involves clearing obstacles and navigating an underground tunnel system. Levels are single-screen puzzles, where players must utilize items and strategic burrowing to progress. The game also incorporates RPG elements with signposts offering hints and power-ups. Priced at £19.99, Mole Mania boasts a 4-meg cart, battery backup, and a battle mode. The review suggests it's a clever and challenging puzzler, providing a refreshing change from typical platformers and racers. The silver Nintendo seal of quality further supports its quality. Mole Mania offers more than just digging. Players, as Muddy Mole, use cabbages to attack enemies and earn bonuses by burying them strategically. Cannonballs smash foes and break doors, adding puzzle elements to the gameplay. A scoring system rewards players for defeating bosses, finding hidden items, and participating in the beefy bonus stage, where Muddy collects cabbages while being chased by Jinbei. The game also supports 2-player battles via a Game Link cable, with one player controlling Muddy and the other Jinbei. This variety makes Mole Mania a more complex and engaging experience than a typical Game Boy puzzle game. This review covers the Game Boy game Mole Mania. It highlights gameplay elements like the map, locator, and health, featuring screenshots of the main character, Muddy Mole, using items like cabbages and cannonballs. The review humorously includes famous moles of our time, listing characters like Mole from Wind in the Willows and Cindy Crawford, because of a mole on her face. The reviewer, Dave McComb, praises Mole Mania, calling it one of the best Game Boy releases since Tetris Attack. He notes its difficulty, puzzle solving, boss battles, depth, and 2-player mode. The review concludes with a breakdown table, giving it high scores across various categories and an impressive overall score of 85%, claiming it is the most impressive Game Boy title in a long time, offering enough variety for all players. This review covers 3 Game Boy games: Worms, Road Rash, and Micro Machines 2, Turbo Tournament. Worms offers classic gameplay with explosive sheep, though the graphics are considered basic, and the small screen makes distinguishing Worms difficult. Road Rash, however, is slammed as a shameful and poorly executed budget title, with terrible graphics and gameplay, earning a low score. Micro Machines 2, Turbo Tournament is praised as a top-notch multiplayer experience, even compared to Mario Kart, with addictive racing action, tricky courses, and a solid score, making it a worthwhile purchase. Seal's mailbag features a mix of reader feedback. Alexander teases Seal about gaining weight, which Seal deflects humorously. A dramatic reader expresses shame over negative comments, and suggests worshipping mammals, prompting Seal's characteristic dismissive response. Martin praises the magazine's new look and suggests Nintendo target teenagers with N64 ads. The Clubber, Antarctica, humorously threatens to eat Seal. Finally, Andrew's Mortal Kombat drawing, a mashup of Mario and Mortal Kombat, is featured, reflecting 90s console war humor and earning Andrew a shout-out. This page of Seal's mailbag opens with reader art and sarcastic responses. A reader questions the 64DD's affordability, to which Seal advises patience, given its delayed release. Another reader's dilemma of selling their SNES for an N64 is also addressed. A reader question. An FAQ section covers various topics: N64 controller prices, the inclusion of international teams in ISS64, the lack of SNES game compatibility, Christmas bundles, and a potential 32-bit Game Boy rumor. The scarcity of the N64 at launch in the UK is acknowledged. The letter of the month focuses on the excitement of finally getting an N64 and playing Super Mario 64, met with a humorous response from Seal. Finally, the picture of the month promotes Turok 2 with a funny dinosaur cartoon, with the winners of both sections receiving a copy of Turok Dinosaur Hunter. In this issue's mailbag, Adrian from Ipswich complains about his parents not buying him an N64. Daniel from Christchurch is disappointed with the lack of Game Boy coverage. Readers also submitted artwork including a funny Sonic drawing. In Q&A, Simon addresses reader queries. Ashley asks about the use of American screenshots in the Mario 64 review. Andrew questions Simon's name and the use of phone numbers in reviews. Gal wants to know when the N64 price will drop, with Simon predicting a summer timeframe. Stuart seeks release dates for Cybernator, Blast Corps, and Street Fighter Alpha 2. Finally, John asks about N64 sound quality, the 64DD, and Mission Impossible, with Simon providing answers and predictions. This mailbag section starts with reader complaints about the N64's price, with comparisons to earlier console launches. Seal's Most Wanted playfully lists things the editor doesn't want, like criticism of his appearance, and mentions of the former editor, Dave Upchurch. Simon answers reader questions about game types, predicting arcade games on cartridges, and strategy/RPGs for the delayed 64DD. He also discusses control methods, Blast Corps level design, and the legal battle surrounding a device for pirated software. The section ends with news of upcoming games like Mario Kart 64, and speculation about potential Squaresoft RPGs for the N64, specifically referencing a desire for a Final Fantasy title on a Nintendo console. The article previews the upcoming Mission Impossible game for the N64, emphasizing its departure from the SNES's abandoned platformer concept. The developers aimed for a more sophisticated experience. The game features several level concepts. CIA headquarters focuses on stealth, hacking, and card-based interactions, similar to GoldenEye but with less emphasis on shooting. Jungle offers classic action with swinging, climbing, and shooting. The helicopter level, based on a movie scene, presents an isometric view, challenging players to control a train while avoiding a helicopter. Early sketches showcase the isometric perspective. The article expresses cautious optimism, acknowledging the history of disappointing movie tie-in games but hinting at potential for a worthwhile experience. This preview of the N64's Mission Impossible delves into gameplay details. The game features an over-the-shoulder shooting perspective called a float cam. Early missions include navigating a hotel lobby to reach the Russian embassy. The preview references the original TV series and the Tom Cruise film, summarizing the movie's plot of Ethan Hunt being framed. Screenshots show scenes from both the film and game. Notably, the game promises consistent speed across PAL and NTSC versions. The preview also highlights over 8 different death sequences. Overall, the article suggests the game aims to capture the excitement of the film. Cheshu. This article previews the N64 Mission Impossible game, discussing its design with project manager Mark Rogers. The game features game intelligence, with reactive AI and disguise mechanics reminiscent of early Hitman. Game action includes arcade-style sequences like truck chases and laser dodging, emphasizing shooting accuracy with multiple death animations. Graphics highlights the game's lighting and shadows. The game will include a gadget gallery, showcasing spy tech like a wrist monitor and cryptophone. The plot involves Ethan Hunt clearing his name in the Russian embassy, stopping nuclear missiles in arms dealer, and escaping the CIA headquarters. The article also notes a bizarre Dark Skies section about UFOs. It concludes by suggesting the game is a standard movie tie-in, with potential due to its N64 polish. The N64 Mission Impossible game features standard weather effects and a notable train sequence with impressive motion graphics. Enemy types include panicky civilians, aggressive guards, crafty FBI agents, and passive women. Levels include CIA offices with laser dodging, a recreation of Waterloo Station with agents and helicopters, and a final boss shootout. A post-boss sting is promised. The article also discusses the original Mission Impossible TV series, highlighting its popularity and comparing it to the A-Team series. It lists characters from both shows, detailing their roles and backgrounds, catering to fans of the classic television series. The Blinded by the Light article highlights the advanced visuals of the Mission Impossible N64 game, showcasing its impressive lighting effects. Unlike simpler N64 games, it uses multiple light sources for shadows and depth. The article details the level building process, starting with wireframes and progressing to fully textured rooms with dynamic lighting. Let's Face the Music and Ear. Shoot! Discusses the game's dynamic music system, which adapts to the player's actions, building suspense during tense moments. The article also reveals details about character models, with each featuring over 350 polygons. Ethan Hunt's appearance is a composite, not an exact likeness of Tom Cruise. The article uses screenshots to demonstrate level design progression, including a transformation from DJ Gear, aiming to create a cinematic experience beyond typical N64 graphics. This article previews a Mission Impossible N64 game, highlighting cinematic gameplay elements like riding a truck and emphasizing destructible environments with multiple animation states. A potential sequel, Mission Impossible 2, is teased, promising more missions, freedom, and multiplayer options, including character disguises. Early VR sequences and cartoon panels, illustrating gameplay, are also discussed. Toliga. The article showcases pre-rendered visuals and a secret service box with humorous instructions. Finally, it introduces key developers: Mark Rogers, project manager, Dave Dixon, lead programmer, and Adrian Ludley, lead artist, revealing their backgrounds and aspirations for future projects, showcasing the diverse influences shaping the game. This page is all about Acclaim, big name back in the day, especially for us N64 owners. They're boasting about how well Turok, Dinosaur Hunter did, selling copies left, right and center, and rightly so. That game was a blast. They're not wrong to pat themselves on the back. They were one of the first independent US companies to publish games for Nintendo, and were raking it in. The article's teasing their future plans, and it's all focused on Extreme G. Looking at the screenshots, it's clearly a futuristic racer. They're calling it Top Secret, but spilling the beans anyway, saying it's one of the coolest racing games ever. Apparently you'll be racing on space-age motorbikes across desolate planets, on tracks that loop and corkscrew. They're name-dropping Wipeout as a comparison, which is a bold claim, but also Mario Kart 64, which is a bit of an odd mix in it, but they're saying it's got the futuristic cool of Wipeout with gameplay like Sony's masterpiece, but married to the speed of Mario Kart. Then there's a section called Speed Demon, saying no futuristic racer would be complete without weapons, and Extreme G has mines and homing missiles. They're also banging on about 4-player split screen, just like Mario Kart 64, which is always good for a laugh with mates. They reckon it's going to be huge. Well, let's see about that. Always got to take these magazine previews with a pinch of salt, haven't you? Acclaim and Probe are developing Ultra Soccer, aiming to rival Konami's ISS-64, boasting realistic player intelligence and real-world stadium recreations. The article highlights the game's mechanics and international team selections, including the humorous inclusion of Antarctica. The article then features Joe Bonar from Probe, discussing N64 development. He emphasizes the console's accessibility, the importance of quality due to the cost of cartridges, and the graphical capabilities, mentioning anti-aliasing. Finally, the article teases Extreme G, with upcoming previews, and provides a brief history of Probe Entertainment. Founded 13 years prior, Probe has a unique origin story involving a dwarf and a W.H. Smith raid. The company has a significant gaming history, having developed over 480 games, including Mortal Kombat ports, and was acquired by Acclaim in 1995. This page is all about Dead or Alive on the N64. It's previewing Tecmo's arcade fighter coming to Nintendo's console, and it's being pitched as a proper 3D beat-em-up, like Virtua Fighter and Tekken, which were big at the time. They are even boasting about $1 million prize for a world fighting tournament. Bit over the top, isn't it? Acclaim are handling the UK distribution, and Probe, who we just heard about on the previous page, are doing the conversion work. Anno. They're highlighting some new features. First up is the offensive hold, which they describe as a counter-attack system where you can grab an opponent's wrist when they try a punch and throw them. Then there are screenshots showing this in action with Jan Lee and Bayman. They also mention that Jan Lee is strong enough to break out of arm locks, and Bayman can do airtight moves. Then they go on about, ooh, matron! And it's all about the female fighter's bosom algorithms. Right, yeah, typical 90s lads mag stuff. They're saying the game has 3 female fighters, Lai Fang, Kasumi, and Tina, and that their, wobbly bits, are much better than other polygonal ladies. They even quote Joe Boner from Probe again, who apparently said people were amazed when they first saw them. They finish off by saying to look out for their fantastic, wobbly celebrations. Honestly, it's all a bit much, but I suppose it was all part of the hype back then for these kinds of games. Dead or Alive features 8 fighters competing for $1 million prize. The diverse cast includes Genfu, an experienced martial artist, Bayman, seeking vengeance for his parents' murder, Zack, aiming to escape poverty, Lai Fang, hoping to prove her strength, Ryu Hayabusa, forced to fight, Jan Li, whose life was changed by martial arts films, Tina, who wants to be a model, and Kasumi, driven by revenge for her brother. The game was a smash hit in arcades, topping charts for weeks. A key feature is the exciting ring-out mechanic, with arenas containing explosives, resulting in spectacular knockouts. Screenshots highlight this over-the-top action, promising a fun experience with friends. This page is giving us a look at a couple of upcoming titles from Iguana Entertainment. Blimey, they were busy back then, weren't they? First up, we've got Turok 2, or as they're calling it, Turok Sequel on the way. Sounds a bit obvious, doesn't it? Apparently Iguana in the US are cracking on with it, alongside an NFL game, of all things. They're promising it's going to be even better than the first Turok, more realistic and with loads more control options, which sounds good considering Turok was already pretty impressive for its time, shooting dinos and all that. Kerry. Then we switch gears completely to something called Condemned, coming from Iguana's UK lot. This one's a futuristic racer, looks a bit like Wipeout but with bikes instead of hovercrafts, set in these grim tunnel environments. They're calling it Future Shock, which is a bit dramatic, isn't it? Plot's a bit mad, something about an interstellar shockwave and space pirates nicking everything. It's got anti-grav bikes with weapons, sounds like a right laugh, especially in multiplayer. They reckon up to 8 players could go at it on the PC version, though they're not sure if the N64 will manage 4 players. Still, looks like a decent bit of futuristic racing action to keep an eye on. Iguana were definitely trying their hand at a few different genres back then, weren't they? This article reviews 2 Iguana games, Biker Droves, Condemned, and Turok 2. Biker Droves is a futuristic first-person shooter with anti-gravity bikes racing through varied arenas, including nuclear plants and space tankers. The PC version featured 16 characters including sexy female bikers. The game emphasizes dangerous corridors and offers melee combat going beyond just shooting. Turok 2 is hyped as a sequel to a successful dino shooter, touting high sales figures and comparing its success to games like Pilotwings 64 and even Doom in Germany. The article highlights the game's potential for success. The Slice and Dice section focuses on Condemned's melee combat featuring sword fights. Finally, the article mentions Sculptured Software, developers of NBA Jam Extreme, and speculates on their future Nintendo title. This article chronicles the history of Mario, a character arguably more iconic than Mickey Mouse. It starts with the release of Super Mario 64, and then dives into Mario's origins, tracing back to the 1970s and the rise of arcade games. The text highlights the evolution of Mario games, starting with the single-screen simplicity of Donkey Kong and its transformation into a platforming classic. The article notes Nintendo's financial success during the Super NES era, emphasizing the quality of those Mario games. It recounts how Shigeru Miyamoto created Donkey Kong, inspired by King Kong, with Mario, originally Jumpman, as the hero rescuing Pauline. The article concludes by appreciating the basic graphics of the early Donkey Kong games and their crucial role in shaping the gaming landscape we know today, calling it a retro gaming history lesson. Mario's iconic look was a practical choice for 8-bit systems, born from the need for high-contrast visuals. He was initially called Jumpman and renamed after Nintendo's landlord, Mario Segale. By 1990, Mario surpassed Mickey Mouse in popularity among American children. Nintendo's history began in 1889 as a playing card company. In 1950, they partnered with Disney. They later innovated with the Ultra Hand and electronic games like Beam Gun. The company overcame market challenges with the Game & Watch handhelds and Donkey Kong. The Famicom, NES, and Super Mario Bros. Revolutionized gaming. Nintendo dominated the late 80s and early 90s with the Game Boy and Super Famicom, culminating in the development of the Nintendo 64. Mario's journey began with the success of Donkey Kong in a Seattle pub, convincing Nintendo of his potential. This led to Shigeru Miyamoto creating Mario Bros., originally conceived as a carpenter, but later a plumber. The arcade game introduced a single-screen environment, where players battled enemies like sidesteppers and shell creepers, by flipping and kicking them. It was innovative for its time. Luigi debuted in this game. UAAU. The article then explores Mario's evolving look, from his early murky blue cap to the iconic red and blue. Various costume changes through the years, including the frog suit and raccoon tail, are highlighted. The article also features images showcasing Mario, in different colors, as Reservoir Marios. Finally, a comic strip and a Super Mario 2 screenshot showcase Nintendo's marketing and the lasting appeal of the franchise. This article reviews Mario's impact, starting with his sizzling sequels, highlighting the success of Super Mario Bros. And its evolution of gameplay, difficulty, and iconic power-ups. It discusses the evolution of Mario's design and Nintendo's early plans to make him a household name. The article then dives into Mario's friends, including Princess Peach, or Daisy, Toad, and Yoshi. Peach is humorously portrayed as a perpetual damsel, while Toad is described with a bizarre comment about being fried. Yoshi's popularity is acknowledged, along with an odd joke about his tongue. Enemies of Mario focuses on Bowser and Wario. Bowser's relentless villainy is emphasized, while Wario is described as a constant adversary. Comic strips detail Wario's comedic misfortune in his ongoing rivalry with Mario, focusing on Wario's struggles. The article concludes by hinting at upcoming availability of Mario games on NES, Super NES, and N64. The Big Blag features 3 competitions. Take Control offers a spook Nintendo 64 controller and memory cartridge, with the question focused on controller functions. Answer: Slowfire. Future Shock gives away 5 copies of the film Brazil on video. The question is about Brazil's location. Answer: South America. It's a Blast offers Bomberman figures not available in UK shops, with a question about the latest Bomberman version in Japan. Answer: Likely Bomberman 5, but uncertain. The page is a typical magazine filler, offering chances to win free items, a nostalgic pastime of sending in postcards for a shot at winning. This magazine page features 3 competitions with television-themed prizes. The first, Wanna See Something Really Scary?, offers Outer Limits videos and tests knowledge of phobias, asking which one isn't real: arachnophobia, agoraphobia, or segophobia. Let the Battle Continue gives away the Series videos and asks about alien invasion movies: Independence Day, Aliens, or Star Wars. Finally, The Truth Is In Here offers X-Files comic books and quizzes about Agent Mulder's first name: Weasel, Fox, or Coyote. Entries were via postcard to a London address, due by May 1997. Next month's issue is all about the Nintendo 64, featuring Star Fox 64, promising very best coverage and a huge 64 play feature. Human Grand Prix, the second N64 racer, is also previewed, with screenshots showcasing gameplay. Dark Rift, a 3D fighter, is highlighted, though it's considered less impressive than other fighting games. The magazine promises a Top Tips section with cheats for N64, SNES, and Game Boy games. They boast being first and best for N64 exclusives, and the UK's only official Nintendo magazine. A free tips book for International Superstar Soccer 64 is included. The rest of the page includes standard staff listings, advertising, and legal information. This page is a full-page advert for Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire on the Nintendo 64. Play dirty, go for the legs, it boldly proclaims, suggesting a bit of cheeky gameplay. It's got a big picture of an AT-AT, reminding you of the classic Hoth battle, and the text goes on about the unprecedented 64-bit power of the N64, which, back then, was a big deal, wasn't it? They're really pushing the 360-degree freedom and the revolutionary controller, promising a real-time, 3-dimensional universe. Bit over the top, perhaps, but it was the 90s. They boast about a blinding arsenal of weapons, 10 play levels, and 4 different game modes, trying to sell the variety on offer. It mentions entangling the legs of the AT-ATs with snow-speeder tokables and blasting stormtroopers, really hammering home the Star Wars experience. It ends with the usual, power up Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, and prepare yourself to step into the legacy line. Right at the bottom corner there is the N64 logo with "Get Into It" slogan, classic Nintendo marketing. It's all very exciting, trying to build the hype for the N64 era. After mentioning all those other N64 titles on the previous page, they really want you to buy into this console, don't they? This page, right then, it's a blast from the past, isn't it? We're looking at an advert for the Super Nintendo and Game Boy versions of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Use the joypad, Luke, it says at the top, which is a bit of alright Star Wars wordplay. It's got quotes from magazine reviews praising the games, calling them a roller coaster of a game and massive galactic fantasy. They are really pushing the Mode 7 sequences, which, back then, were quite impressive, even if it's all a bit basic now. They reckon Star Wars and platform game fans would be mad to miss it, which is fair enough as these were decent games at the time. They've slapped some review scores on there too, 92% from NMS and 95% from SNES Force, so someone liked them. It mentions George Lucas being proud, which is a bit of a stretch, but you know how marketing goes. Down at the bottom it says the Star Wars saga continues on Super Nintendo and Game Boy, and it's all available at Woolworths. Remember Woolies? Good times. It's quite a classic advert really, playing on the Star Wars hype, especially with the N64 game advert for Shadows of the Empire on the previous page. They are really going all in on the franchise, aren't they?